What was I going to talk about tonight? I'm having a protein shake. It's late. It's like nearly 10. I ran out of time this morning on my lifting session and I had push press to do, so I did it tonight. I was looking after Phoenix, so that went on a little bit longer than I expected, but it was great fun. I'm going to do a little bit on him as well. Show you what he's looking like these days. He's coming on. He's a bit of a rock star. His young Phoenix. But I'm enjoying being a co-parent. So it's fun. So anyway, writing today, and I've had a bit of a writing block. Here's where I'm at. I'm in a front seat of a Peugeot 504 estate, two double back seats. Me and Julian are in the front seat, five people in each back seat. Bags, chickens, bikes on the roof, going from the Gambia to Dakar. So I thought I'd talk about it just to make me get a bit more flowy with the writing. And this was probably this was a struggle, big time a struggle. But what I'm realizing in life is in the struggle is where the growth is. And I've always said that, there's no growth in comfort, but really it's how you address it afterwards. Everybody knows people that are stuck in the past, stuck in a traumatic thing that happened to them once or twice or a few times, but they never moved on or they never learned the lesson from it. Everyone knows someone that, were bullied in school, never got over it, laughed at because they were overweight and they stayed overweight all their life, pointed at, joked at, something bad happened to them, had a traumatic relationship, and then went and had a bunch of other same type of relationships, aggressive relationships, or people that weren't treating them well all the time, and just kind of ended up in the same kind of circle loop all the time. And it's how you kind of get on from these things. The trip to Africa was a bit of a hard learned lesson. But here's what happened. I had a bad crash when I was about 19 on the bike, and I have this really bad scar here. There's like 27 stitches in it, and you can see it there. A set of glasses I had on. I was always wearing glasses. Um, we're out on some black ice out the back of Navan Way, and we had a team car behind us, and we were riding, and it was wet, but it was cold, but it was black ice, and normally what happens is you fall, you hit something, you fly. It takes a while for you to land, hit the ground. So by the time you hit the ground, you're 20 feet in front of the where you took off, and you turn and you roll, you put your hand out. But this time the bike the front wheel just went from underneath me. Maybe I just pulled the front brake. I don't know. And I went straight down, face first into the ground. And I remember like hitting the ground and then putting my head up and hitting it again. And the guy behind me, Paul O'Keefe, was, as I was sliding, didn't want to fall off, didn't want to hit me, so he bunny hopped the bike. But because he was going the same pace as I lifted up, back wheel landed on my head and I went like straight in. And then it was quiet. And when I put my head up and I could feel the heat on my face, and I put my hand on my face and it was just covered in blood, and there was a hole like that size. You could see the skull where the arm had come off the sunglasses, Oakley blades, and gone straight through and ripped up my face. But after that, I was had a problem riding in the wet because I associated wet with those conditions, and it kind of freaked me out for a while. So Jules, being Jules, decided to get out of Ireland for the winter, go somewhere warm. So he'd been in the Cycling Federation. He found this piece of paper in, I don't know where he found it, in the bin or something like that, with Senegalese Cycling Federation and an address and the guy's name on it. So he wrote to the guy called Michel Tube. We'd already ridden in Guadeloupe. So French-speaking country. Senegal, Dakar was the capital. I kind of knew Dakar from the Paris-Dakar rally, but that's all I knew about it. So he wrote to the guy, said, hey, listen, there's 2 riders, want to come over, race for you guys in the winter. What do you say? So he said, look, get your flight over. We'll look after you when you get here. And everything's good. That was it. So Jules went to the library and, figured out how to kind of get there. What was the best way? And it was working out like super expensive. And we were broke. And at the time, there was no Ryanair, so flights were expensive. A flight to Paris from Dublin at that stage was a couple of weeks' wages. It wasn't like now you just jump on a flight for 27 quid and you're grand. It was like, it was exclusive, it really was. So like say I was earning 150 quid a week then at that stage. It was probably 300, 350 to fly to Paris. So we just didn't have that sort of bread. And I'd work during the winter, off season. So there was a thing called CFAX before the internet, and on BBC Two, when BBC Two wasn't on, there was these kind of like it's like a digital newspaper really, and it would give holiday bargains, because at that stage a lot of flights were charter, and at that stage a lot of flights you'd wait till the last minute and you get a deal. Now you don't, it just goes up. The more you look on Ryanair, now you've looked at it, they'll charge you more when you look in later on again, right? But then you'd have these bargains, and last minute they can't fill the plane, so just sell a seat off, right? So Jules said to me, hey, listen, there's this flight to the Gambia, and it's £99, and it's a holiday for 2 weeks in the Gambia, return flights, but we just want the one-way flight, because all we do is get a one-way flight. So he was like, yeah, let me look into that. So we went to the library, got a book on the Gambia, and the Gambia is this country in the middle of Senegal. So Senegal is this big fuck off place, west coast of Africa, furthest point west, and it was run by the British, and then the French invaded and they retreated to this river Banjul, and they could blow 40 miles either side of it with gunboats, and 200 miles along the length of the river, and that became the Gambia, and that's British, or was British. So it's bang in the middle of Senegal, and Dakar I think is like 1,500 kilometers south of the Gambia. So we'd figure we'd fly to the Gambia and we'd make our own way down. So we got this book, and in the book it was like you land in Banjul, you get a taxi to the ferry, you get a ferry across the river. On the ferry you meet a friend for life. Then you get off the other side, and these bush taxis that move people around. You do a little bargain deal with him, boom, you're in Dakar. Great, let's do it. So we got the boat to Holyhead. We got the train, then to London. We got the tube, then to Gatwick. Slept overnight. I had my pot noodle, so I was big into pot noodle at the stage. And we flew to the Gambia. And when we landed, it was first of all the plane missed the runway the first time. I think it was a bit of a sandstorm, so it took off straight away. Big fucking 747. Went back around again, landed, and then when we got down, the airport was like a barn, like a bad barn. So there was no carousel where there was a bunch of guys in uniform, is a loose kind of term. They look like prisoners out of fucking like Papillon the movie. These ragged, browny, stripy fucking clothes that they had on. They looked like sacks that you'd have potatoes in or something, but they were in bits, and they all looked a little bit different. And we were brought through passport control, and then we just hung around while these boys carried the bags from the plane. And when they walked into the room, they asked, who owns the bag, and then you put up your hand, he takes you outside, gives you the bag, you give him a few quid. Of course, we didn't have a few quid. Got the bags, got the bikes. And at the time, it was a kind of like a pro move to have a suitcase and a bike. Pro move. But the suitcase didn't have wheels then. So it was just like a fucking suitcase. So you're kind of immobile. So the guy grabbed my suitcase, grabbed my bag, grabbed my bike, follow him outside, he looks for money, I don't give him any money. Goes fucking nuts. Then they all kind of gang up on us. And yeah, it was just all a bit like chaotic. And then Jules had got a letter from Michel Tube, the president of the bike team in Dakar, to say that he would send someone for us or something like that. We weren't too sure, to meet us at the airport. So when we got outside, there's nobody there. And we wait an hour, we wait 2 hours, nobody there. And we're thinking like, okay, so what do we do? Because I didn't have a phone number. There was no mobiles at that stage. There was no internet at that stage. So it's a case of like you make a move. So you either go or you stay. And we made the decision to go. And in that decision, I learned one thing. If you tell me to meet you in a place, I will never move from that place, ever. Because of what happened after that. So if you say to me, I'll meet you Friday at 3 o'clock and it's 3 a.m. I'm staying there if you haven't got in contact me again. Because I know that's the last place we're going to meet, right? So Jules says to me, look, if once we leave or gone, we're on our own. So I said, look, fucking seems handy enough. Let's do it. So he said, okay. So we got a taxi from the airport down to the river. And as soon as we landed, it was just chaos. It was just like people everywhere. Like a scene out of Vietnam or something when everyone's trying to leave. Car stops, bags are in the back with the bike in the back of the taxi. Boots kind of open a little bit. And next of all, there's a guy going that way with my bag, guy going that way with Jules's bag, somebody else with my bike, somebody else with Jules's bike, and it's just all fucking chaos. And all they're looking for is tips. They're not looking for it to rob you. And of course, we weren't given any fucking tips. We didn't have any fucking tips. So it was kind of a little bit chaotic. Everyone was getting aggressive with us. We finally got to fucking find out where to get a ticket. Probably got robbed on the ticket. Got the ticket. Got on the ferry. And all I met on the ferry was like a leper trying to sell me a bag of dirty water. There was no friends for life. It was fucking rough. Overwhelming. And like I'd been to Guadeloupe before that. And like, here's the thing. I grew up in a paddy Catholic country where there was no people of any other ethnicity, only Irish. There was no brown people, there was no black people, there was no Asian people, there was no Eastern Europeans, there was nobody, just Irish people. That was it. There was 2 black people in Crumlin. One was Phil Linney, who played for Thin Lizzy, rock star, died of a heroin overdose. And the other was my babysitter called Kamala Das. She was just like 6 foot tall, model, mixed race, afro. She used to have the duck coming into the sitting room because she had platform shoes on. And I kind of fell in love with her when I was like 5, that kind of way. She was just this, exotic looking woman, And that was my only interaction with brown people, basically, until I went to Guadeloupe. And when I got there, it was kind of like I'd never seen so many black people, in a sense where the guy flying the plane, the guy in the taxi, it was just like different. But after a while, when I'd been there, it was just normal. It was just standard. It was just like you didn't even see it anymore. And it was just something that, we just weren't exposed to. It was like when I went to China, they never saw any Westerners and they were just fascinated by me. So when I got to Africa, I just thought it was going to be the same, black people. It's just my ignorance of being young and not being exposed to culture and knowing it's culture, not skin colour, that makes a difference. And African culture is very different to West Indian culture. And that's what got me off guard. The kind of aggressiveness of it, the kind of in your face of it. Whereas that kind of level of aggressiveness or in your face and where I was from would get you killed, where there was just a way to communicate. It was overwhelming for me. And I remember being on the ferry thinking like, this is fucking heavy. Finally got off, bush taxis there. And they're a big old Peugeot 504 from the fucking, I don't know when they're from, 70s. 2 back seats, like benches, an estate, and then a big huge roof rack. They used to use them in the Tour de France for bike team cars, and also in Guadeloupe, that's what they used for a team car when we were there. So I was familiar with them. argued with the guy about the price, agreed on a price. Me and Jules jumped in the front seat. Two of us squashed in together. 5 people in the back seat, another 5 in the next back seat, and then just bags upon bags upon bags, chickens, their suitcases, and our bikes on top of this like mountain on top of the roof. And off we went. Up the road a little bit, dodging potholes. Stop with the police. Get out of the car, take all your stuff out, looking for paperwork for this, finding people. And these people have got fucking no money. And then when they see us, it's like Christmas has come true, thinking we're fucking rich white boys, which we weren't. And then the guy kept putting up the price in the bush taxi because all our stuff is on the ground now. You got to get it back on, renegotiate. And it just went on and on and on. Every fucking few kilometres, stop, get out. Then it got dark. And then it was just lads in the middle of the dark road just stepping out in front of the car. No lights, no nothing. And I had to fuck they saw them. Same shit. And we pulled in this place to get something to eat. It was just like shop as a want of a better word, but it's hard to describe. It's just this like building with a 40-watt bulb in it, yellowy bulb, people everywhere, and they stopped there to get something to eat. And I remember sitting on the floor going with my hands on my head, thinking, I was just done. I couldn't even stand up. It was just like I was just overwhelmed by the whole fucking situation. And I said to Jules, as soon as we get to Dakar, I'm going to get a flight out here tomorrow. And it was the first time I've ever seen him going, yeah, okay. And the last time we got stopped by the taxi man stopped talking to me because he would tell me how far we were going and all this kind of shit. And then he stopped talking to me. And then I started getting like really, really pissed. And I felt like just fucking robbing the car and just driving on. I remember the last time we got stopped by the police and I didn't even get out of the car. And he took one look at me and he didn't even ask me. So I must have had a fucking face on. So we how I knew we were getting close to Dakar was we came across this, it was like an industrial cement factory with stuff bellowing out the fucking thing. Why is that flashing? My light is flashing. Let me check. Hang on. Sorry about that. Battery died. Gives me a little warning. Brilliant. Anyway. Yeah, when we started getting into Dakar, or close to Dakar, we saw this factory. And I was never so happy to see like fucking smoke bellowing out of a fucking chimney. Like civilization. And we rock into Dakar and it's a city and it's like 2 a.m. And it's kind of empty. We pull up at this gas station, like a normal looking gas station. We get out, get our bags, get our bikes. And I'm like, fucking great, we're here. I was like, Jules, where are we staying? And Jules says, I forgot the guy's address. So what do you mean you forgot the guy's address? I said, I don't have it with me. I don't know. I don't have any contact details for Michelle Tube. Fuck. So we were stuck. So we took the bikes were in these plastic bags. So we took the plastic bags, bikes out of plastic bags, and we got into them and we slept on the street. Homeless, contactless, no money in this fucking shithole. And I remember waking up the next morning and someone asking me for fucking money. Tapping off me like I'm homeless, dude. I'm sleeping in a plastic bag, and it was just bizarre. And Jules had an urgency in him because I think he knew he'd kind of pushed it a little bit too far. I wasn't happy with shit, so he says, "I'm gonna go find this guy." I was like, "How the fuck are you gonna find this guy? We're in the middle of a big like metropolis city in Africa. How the fuck are you gonna find him?" Goes off about an hour later. Comes back with him. It's like, how the fuck? And the guy had like this face of like shock and horror. These guys that come over and they were sleeping on the side of the fucking road, and he was just like so fucking so sorry. And how Jules had found them was, and this is a great little one for you. So where'd he go to? You don't go to a police station because in Africa the police aren't the same. They're not helpful. They're not paid much. They've just got a license to rob you. They don't want to They just want to take shit off you, not arrest you, or they don't want to help you. But across the world, some professions are the same. Firemen help people. So we went to the fire station, found a fire station, said, hey, listen, we're lost, we've no money, we're broke, we've nowhere to stay. We're meant to be racing with the Senegalese cycling team, a guy called Michel Tube. Just so happened the guy knew him and called him. And then Michel was like, fuck, where are you? And he came around and saw us. And he picked us up, brought us to a hotel, fed us, fucking... And the irony of it was that when we got to Banjul, he had bought 2 flights for us to fly from Banjul to Dakar, but no one told us. He just said someone would meet us. And if we'd kind of gone in and asked, we just would have spent like an hour and a half on the plane. We would have been there, you know. But we spent 12 hours, wherever the fuck we were spent in that fucking car. And it was just one of the, like, when you're not expecting something and it goes pear-shaped, and then not having the life skills or the experience in life to deal with it. Whereas now, I can pretty much deal with most things because I've experienced most things in life. I've experienced ups, the greatest highs and the greatest lows. And I've experienced aggression, I've experienced violence, I've experienced just the different characters that are out there that we come across on a daily basis, and asking yourself, like, what do they want? Or, you know, what are they looking for? Or what's really going on here? I have a lot more experience. So for me to get to that stage now would be quite difficult, you know. But yeah, so that's where I'm at in the book. But the moral of the story is there is no growth and comfort. And that's it. I mean, all the things in life that I've learned are through really, really bad times. Really bad times. And that was only one day. I mean, okay, we stayed there for 3 months and it was a fucking rough ride. But it never got as hectic as that again. At least I knew what I was dealing with. And it's just, no matter what spot you're in, especially if it's hard, know there's a lesson in it if you're willing to look for it and if you're willing to do the work. Because like I say at the start, a lot of people have a traumatic episode happen to them in life and they stay in that for the rest of their life and they never get over it, and they identify it as the victim or as poor me or why did this happen to me. Look, it's fucking happening to you. Deal with it. Stay in it. And when you're ready, come out, embrace it, hug it, hang on to it. Don't run away from it. Don't shy away from it. But know that when it goes, there's a big lesson in it. I was listening to Jeff Thompson last night. I sent you the video. It's it's not about imagination. And if you imagine bad shit, and that's all you imagine, that's all you'll ever have. But if you imagine greatness, that's what you'll have. And if you imagine a future, if you imagine an outcome, if you imagine what you want, but also are willing to do the work, not just sit there and fucking think positive and all good stuff happens to you like The Secret, not that sort of stuff. But if you've been in a traumatic episode or a traumatic relationship or a traumatic fucking experience, or the fucking dark clouds of hell are hanging over you, sit in it, embrace it. It will pass. Everything changes. But when you come out the other side, look for the lesson. And in the lesson, you can imagine positive from the lesson and do the work, and great things will happen. I met a guy here the other day who's a very interesting guy. And we spoke, and he'd been through the ringer on a lot of stuff, but was looking to find himself again. And I think, especially with people think they can't do something, right? So say for instance you had an addiction, right? And it was a big addiction, whatever it is, drugs, porn, fucking alcohol, sex, whatever your addiction is. You're motivated to do something over everything else. If you get rid of that addiction, you have the personality traits to be able to be motivated and to do anything in order to do a positive rather than a negative. So to get rid of that, to get rid of one addiction, you got to replace it with another. So hard work, physicality, things that are hard, training, weightlifting, riding a bike, marathons, ultra marathons. They say all ultra marathon runners are all addicts. They just replace one thing with the other. But you can use that skill, instead of thinking of it negative, you can use that skill that you learned by being completely engrossed by something and turn it into a positive and imagine great things. And that's hopefully that gets me over the hump of the book, because I need to finish it. I've that one, second one, the second film that we're shooting. I'm not doing all this for the fucking good of me health. Light. I bought this top. I never really wore it. I don't know whether I like it or not. I don't know. Maybe not. Anyway, so that's all I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to grab a sauna, write down in my book what I did today. It's a fucking class book. And then I woke up at 5:30 this morning. I dug this out. That is a syllabus from Brian McCarthy from Ninjutsu in 2007. I was talking to Joe Hoey about the syllabus. The syllabus was it was 10 cues. Each grade had a bunch of shit that you had to do. And then you did your 9th cue, 8th cue. And on the top of every page had consolidate your knowledge. And I dreamt about that last night. Consolidate your knowledge. And I've been looking at that since 1997. And I never really got it until last night. So I woke up, dug deep for this thing because I knew I had it. And this was a new syllabus that Brian had written in 2007. And it doesn't have consolidate your knowledge on it. And that was a mistake. So, consolidate your knowledge. Imagine big things, and big things will happen. Till the next time, we are all one. Namaste. Hare Krishna.